It's 6:30. Welcome to tonight's study session. I hear myself. Yeah. Oh. Okay. All right, so without any further ado, Mr. Raines.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, a couple of months ago, I had sent out to the mayor and council a briefing on a concept that is being introduced in the police department, and we thought it would be good to for the chief and his team to come before the council and speak a little bit about the concept that they're looking to unveil here in the next month or so. So, Chief, you want to make any introductions, or you want to just hand it over?
I think everybody knows Deputy Chief Winston, Lieutenant Ramirez, and Lieutenant Palmer. And mainly Lieutenant Palmer's going to give the talk today over the PowerPoints, but just to give you a little bit of a lead into this, everybody's aware that we have done DDAX, and that met with some success. But what we looked at as a department was trying to drill down into different areas of the community. Since we have 5 districts that are patrolled regularly, then Chris and Reggie came up with a plan that they didn't invent, but they found it had success in other departments on a beat team, to where a certain area of town, specific beats are patrolled by the same people. And what we are going to do, and not to steal from Chris, but currently we do shift change every 6 months. And what we're going to start doing after this next one is we're going to do it yearly. And that way that, number one, it makes it a little easier for everybody administratively, but number two, it gives officers a solid year to work in one district. And the plan that they come up with for this beat team will allow around the clock dealing with certain problems in certain districts within the city. So with that, I'll just let Chris.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to share some of the stuff we've been working on in the police department. Let me see if that's the way it goes. All right. So actually, the end of 2018 going into 2019, we started to reevaluate some of the stuff we were doing, with our major motivation being that we believe community policing is a philosophy that should be embedded throughout the entire department versus a handful of programs that are, intermittently facilitated, and then the police officers go out and do their job. In an effort to do this and to figure out what would be the best way for us to go, we looked at existing programs like DDAX, some of our existing behaviors, academic research and community policing, beat teams, and routine activity theory were conducted. A lot of this information is not going to be in this slideshow, but we can make it available to you at a later date if you'd like to see it. Routine activity theory states that 3 elements must be present for crime to occur, which is motivated offenders, suitable targets, and the absence of capable guardians, which is the cornerstone of what we're always dealing with, trying to ensure that the community develops their guardianship skills and that offenders are deterred, and that opportunity is suppressed. So with that in mind, this is what we learned when we went through this. Beat teams, which is all of the officers who work a common beat, Adam District officers who work day shift, swing shift, or night shift, weekdays or weekends, will be part of the Adam District beat team. So this helps to generate communication between that group that isn't always happening right now because of the time differentials in their weekly schedules. They all work a certain squad, and they have a squad cohesion, but we're trying to take that squad cohesion and put it into the beat and make it a beat cohesion. So the beat teams will help acculturate the community policing philosophy as a grassroots effort throughout the department. So whereas we have a certain group of people or a handful of people right now that will facilitate Coffee with a Cop, Neighborhood Watch, like Thomas Anderson and Wendy Lloyd and some of our volunteers, and officers will participate, we want to take that and say, this is your beat, you're the beat team. In your beat at the micro level, You will now facilitate your programs, but you will also build partnerships with your stakeholders in order to carry out this foundational criminological approach based on routine activity theory. We learned the beat teams will be favorable to problem solving, delivering the micro approach to current programs like DDAX. So whereas we've been doing DDAX at a citywide level, and we have a hotspot in the city, and then we instruct officers who work different districts to filter in and out of this hotspot when they can, we realized it would be better if we had a hotspot in every district, and we had a team in each district that was responsible for their geographical area and that hotspot, and they would have a little more ownership, and it would be a little bit more narrowed. And so you would have 5 districts doing 5 DDAX zones instead of one city doing one big DDAX zone, and it becomes a little bit more ambiguous. The beat teams will enhance and bring consistency to internal and external communications, helping to facilitate a communication between these team members that isn't currently happening. Through our new team software that was recently installed, these guys have it on their phones, they have it in their cars, they have it on their desktops, and the Teams program is very quick communication to specific groups that you establish in these teams, which will be per district. So Adam District officers can communicate with each other this way, not just via email, but through this Teams program, and share real-time information that pops up on their computer as soon as they log in to go to work. And they'll also share this in bi-monthly meetings. It's going to enhance and bring consistency to internal and external communication through the meetings that we will have bi-monthly. These groups will invite community members and stakeholders in that geographical area to come to these meetings. The first part of the meeting will be open to the public. They'll exchange information, they'll answer questions, they'll get feedback from people there, and then the second half of the meeting will be for the officers privately to share intelligence, to wrap their head around what they've learned from the community members. It'll be like this real-time communication that's happening. They will organize that. Sergeants will be assigned to a beat team to facilitate these meetings, but they won't run the meeting. They're not going to be in charge of the meeting. They're a liaison between command and the group. Officers will be given the autonomy with a corporal chairperson to run the meeting, get the information, and then problem solve. The beat teams will eliminate obstacles which hinder officers' ability to think outside the box. So we're going to empower these officers when they see a problem, to come up with a plan to solve it, and then to reach out to community resources, both in the city and outside the city, that they think may help to achieve that, and to present that proposal to their facilitator sergeant. B teams will establish greater line level autonomy, generating more flexible and responsive service delivery. The problem solving, the autonomy is good for problem solving, for internal development and generating ownership, and it builds leaders within the department, which is also crucial for us right now.
And Chris, let me jump in there. Mayor and council, as everybody knows, on our drop program, in the next 4 years, we're gonna lose 7 supervisors. And we only have 15. So we're gonna lose close to half in the next 4 years. We're gonna lose, I think, 6. No, we're gonna lose 2 additional in the year following that. So part of the idea of this is to give officers a chance to problem solve and kind of step up amongst their peers to come up with different ideas, and hopefully through all that process, not to take away from what it's gonna do for the community, but selfishly, this is gonna give us a chance to look at individual officers and groups of officers to see who can maybe rise to the occasion and fill our supervisory ranks, because not only are we gonna be missing a lot of talent and a lot of experience on our supervisors, we have several veteran officers in that time frame that are also leaving, so we need something to fill that void, and we thought this would be a dual benefit for everybody.
Yes, Councilmember Powell.
I just want to comment. I thought this was such a great idea when I saw it. And you look at the fire department, they have crews. And they have guys there that work together, and they have a sense of pride and a sense of accomplishment as a crew. And if you had a football team and you just keep sending new people in there, but they keep changing it, they're not going to win any games. And I think this is such a good idea. John Holland, you remember John Holland? Community policing was his big thing, and I think this is like community policing on steroids. Breaking it into groups and then making those connections out in the different areas that you're working in. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, sir. And to that point, Councilmember Powell, what we learned through our research is that it is not uncommon, in fact, it's commonplace for police departments to really fail to embed community policing as you just described it on steroids. They have programs, they have a community policing officer, but to really get it into the line level, at that grassroots level where you say, community policing is what you do, not what we do or decide to do and tell you about it, and then we use it as a catchphrase while we go out and do just standard routine police work. We demonstrate great customer service and our guys do a great job, but this is gonna take it to another level because it's going to, the problem-solving issue and the partnership with the community is what I think we're missing, whereas we do invite community members to get involved. When we go out and we actually solicit them for problem solving and we're meeting in their neighborhoods, in their community, bi-monthly with them and they have that input. There's also a social media model to this where we market the program, but we're working with the web designer currently for an interactive map online so they can go to the city website, they can click on their district, or they can either type in their address to find out what district they're in, what beat, and then, or they can click on the district and it'll open up. It'll see the sergeant and the squad members that are assigned to the beat team. It'll have emails and phone numbers. We'll share information on upcoming meetings and where it will be held and things like that. And although there may be some challenges going into the first part of the year as we slow roll this out with COVID, we may be looking at some more online meetings and stuff, but
One of the things you mentioned is basically when you have a team, you get informal leaders on that team, and those are the ones you may want to pick out to promote or to move up. As the chief talks about, we're might be missing some people, but I think the team idea is just really good.
yes, sir. So the target population, internal obviously is the police administration, line level supervisors, the officers, our civilian personnel, and our volunteers. And we're already introducing this to them. External partners, citizens, city partners, beat teams may reach out to other city departments for assistance with beat issues or beat projects. This could be a city department director, or it could also be just a private business owner. Business community partners, social service stakeholders, and clergy, and these will be key members to invite to our meetings. The program entails unifying the patrol officers who work common beats, patrol sergeant facilitators with corporal chairpersons on these teams. They will establish beat profiles. They will establish annual goals for their beats. Permanent beat assignments as of next fiscal year, starting in July, will be annually instead of every 6 months so that we have consistency in those beats and those members for at least a year. The bi-monthly meetings, portions of those open to citizens, and then the others for the officers. Information sharing via officer contacts and social media platform, interactive beat map on the city website. We'll also have some postcards in the works like we did with DDAX that'll identify beat teams and have specific members so we can distribute them in specific districts. Beat team activities incorporated into employee evaluations at some point. And the federal JAG community policing grants, which we've already acquired some and have some on the books now for our rollout that are gonna help reduce overtime. We do expect some overtime with this. We do hope to curb most of it with these types of grant programs as well, but we think that it's worth it.
Yep.
Implementation, introduction meetings with command supervisors and line level personnel. This is happening now. We're actually at the point where we're gonna start having meetings going into December with the squads, and we're gonna start establishing some of the profiles and things like that. The team members are gonna change come February when we have another shift bid. Then we'll have kind of a dry run through June, and then in July, when we do our shift bid for that annual year, will be our full rollout for that fiscal year. We hope to track things fiscally because we believe that it's better number-wise statistical-wise to track it fiscally. We sent out the community newsletter preview already to let people know that it was coming last month. And let's see here. Patrol Division Squad Matrix, what that is that's a schedule where it shows all of the personnel in their current squads, but then it also ties to what beat they would be associated with and who their facilitator will be. The pros: it elevates community policing, it enhances communication, it builds lasting partnerships, it nurtures autonomy and decision-making, building leaders within our organization, and it reduces crime. The cons: obviously, it will take time. It has. We've been working on this for a while. We would have been a lot further ahead had we not run into COVID. We kind of started out dealing with civil unrest for a little bit and then ran into COVID-19, and so this year's been a little bit busy. But we haven't stopped this. We've been working on it on the side, and we've been slowly implementing it, but we should be good this coming year. Funding concerns, which is why we're using grants, and department buy-in, which so far has been positive.
Question is seeing that as far as funding concerns, as far as grants, how dependent is this program on grants? If you even put a percentage to it, or however you want to.
It's dependent on grant funding, but not to the point, we don't think it's gonna cost so much that if grant funding is limited, we can't offset it or work around it. We do believe we're gonna incur overtime. With grant funding or without, we're gonna incur it, but we have some wiggle room, and then we have the flexibility of scheduling and how we schedule it, and if we need to move from a bi-monthly to a quarterly meeting temporarily, depending on grants availability. But right now, it looks very positive. Our JAG grants, we've never had an issue acquiring them. We have several on the books right now that we're using for this training and our rollout. We have one we just acquired that's sitting there waiting as we do our dry run, and we believe that most of that's gonna take care of a lot of those issues.
And I just hate to see this, I would hate to see this take steps backward just because of the lack of funding. And that, something like this, and reading that multi-page report that I had and everything else, this is so important to our community that I love the idea, let's do as many grants as possible, but I'd not like to see us take a step back because of lack of funding.
Councilmember Courts and I agree with you, and we have thought about that, and our plan would be to come back, if we needed to come to council with to explain that we may be running a little higher in overtime because of grant funding.
Yep.
Or whatever we're doing, we would have a plan. We would be consistently on top of that, so we could deal with it internally, and then the chief could come and present if we needed to address any changes in that.
Great.
Because we also agree that it's important.
Donna, you had a question, a comment?
Just a couple comments, Chris. First of all, I think it's a great idea for a retention effort, because we've got to start looking at how we can keep these officers that we have and move them up. And the best way to do that is to intertwine them in leadership. So I love that concept. My question is, how do you see, and Chief, I know that you and I have had lots of discussions about this, about the Police Advisory Board, and how do you see perhaps this board can help with this as far as citizen activity and input? Because we're talking about 5 different, areas of the city, and I think it's a 5-member board, at least 5 or 7. But I'm just wondering how we could utilize that board for your advantage on that. So I don't know. I'm looking at both of you for answers, so I don't want to put you on the spot, Chris.
Donna, obviously, I think they would play a part in it. They're looking for ways to get involved. They're looking for ways to get the word out. And plus, I also think that on the flip side of that, the more interactions that we have in different pockets of the city, because there will be interactions on this, and now it may not be standing room only, but there'll be more than we're doing right now. Outside the concept of like coffee with a cop, these will actually be areas and meetings where we're actually talking to people about issues in their neighborhood, not just glad handing and how you doing and all that. So I think what may develop from that is, and we're hopeful, that once we do start meeting again with the Police Advisory Board, we'll finally get an audience, or we'll finally get people that'll come in and want to talk to them, and we'll have them involved. They're aware of this. We give them all our updates, all our press releases. When you get it, they've got it. things like that. So they know this is coming. So I think it'll make them stronger, and we'll find a way to incorporate them in this project, either by getting the word out through some of their churches, through whatever, to try to get people involved that live in different pockets in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Chris, you're not done yet, are you?
I was just gonna add, we would invite them to the meetings and propose that with the 7 members, they just maybe designate 1 member or 2 members to go to a certain meeting, and they all spread out, and then they come back together and they can talk about what they learned.
Is your presentation over yet?
No, sir.
Okay, let him finish, and hold your questions, please. Let Chris finish his presentation. Go ahead.
We've got we're on slide 4 of 75, so we're almost. Actually, so here we're at the conclusion. So overall, the idea behind this is to really get the squads or the officers to come together and share their information and their needs and their issues within the beats, but also doing this with the people that live in those communities, so that instead of being reactive, they're being more proactive to problem solving, and it's gonna generate some openness, communication, and, we're gonna have some bumps, and it's gonna go, and we're gonna learn from it, and, smooth it out, but I think that it's gonna be, pretty incredible, so. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Mr. Powell, you had a question? No question?
I'll be a gentleman.
Thank you. I know I was waiting till the
Go
end
ahead,
of the
Lisa.
presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing that. Val.
Well, first of all, I'm going to agree with what these guys say. I mean, I'm happy to see that you're trying something new. Of course, with everything going on in the country, with police officers, and we know how much they do and how much they mean, and we value everything that you guys do in the community. And I'm happy to see that you're trying something new to be transparent and open the communication, levels in the community. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be great. But of course, when I was looking at the pros and cons, I just wanted to make sure, first of all, is there buy-in? How does the department feel about doing it? I really hope that they're seeing this as something positive, but I was curious about that. And then how are you going to determine those teams? I'm sure you face this, and I'm sure, Councilmember Huddleston has faced this for years, that sometimes people feel that they're getting chosen for a particular area for a certain reason, and is it cliquish? Is it because you like this person, they're gonna get that, that area? So I'm curious how you're gonna determine that, and how often will you change those teams? Of course.
Once a year.
Oh, once a year,
Once
you
a
said? Once a
Yep.
year, okay,
Yep.
sorry, I missed that part of it. So yeah, if you can kind of give me a little bit, I know you said that they're positive, if you can just give me a little bit more feedback on, what they're saying and how you're going to choose those teams.
Yes, so Councilmember Fitzgibbons, in the meetings we've had up to this point with the supervisors and some of the initial meetings with the squads, we have an officer group that represents all of the squads, where there's a representation from every squad as an officer that comes, and we discuss software upgrades, policy changes, things like that. So supervisor group, officer group, right now, completely on board, very supportive, no major issues. They had some questions, but they understood it. They liked the idea. And as we start rolling it out to the actual line level, I believe we're gonna have the same response, because I've spoken to a lot of them one-on-one and shared it with them. And we've been talking about this for a year. So it's not new to them. We've been going through the stages to roll it out, but we've been putting it in their ear. We've been throwing it out every time we have a meeting. We talk about something, we talk about how, and this is gonna be good for the beat team program, and this is gonna be good. So it's been embedded, and right now, it looks great, the response. The other question was about selecting the teams.
Yeah.
So currently, officers go to a squad, they bid for their squad based on seniority, they get on graveyards. Then the sergeant will go around the room on the first day of the start of the shift, and based on seniority, they'll bid for beats. And I want Adam District, I want David District, and they'll bid that. So once we establish where they're gonna land after they set themselves up, then we put them in the matrix. And that will determine, we take all the Adam District officers, you're on the Adam team. And then we assign a sergeant facilitator, And they already know that that's coming because they picked that beat. And so that's how we do that.
Okay.
Mr. Powell, you had a question?
Just two comments. One thing, it's a one-year assignment. And those people have to get together pretty good in a year's time, working together where they know more about each other and also the areas that they're responsible for. And I think one of the things that we need to be really concerned about is officer safety with what's been happening all over the United States. And I think this, if you have a team involved instead of a guy out there by himself or maybe one partner, if you have a team working, I think it's going to be a lot safer than it would be than what we're seeing in different locations right now.
That's correct.
Matt, you had a comment, question?
Yes, I do. I got a quick one. Again, thank you guys very much. A lot of good stuff here. Like everyone said, I'm not gonna go over all that. But what I like too is the DDAX program has seemed to work very well. And we get to one area, but this is gonna have its own like little DDAX area in each district now. And the people in those districts are gonna know what the problems are, who the problems are, and help you guys. So I really appreciate that. When you said the bi-monthly meetings, I was like, so I get to meet, but I didn't realize at first are community meetings, which I'm a real big fan of. And Chief, to your point, you've always been really good with us in the last couple of years, keeping us up to date on your plans moving forward with personnel. You're to be commended, all of you, for using this program to help us bring them up through the ranks as well. So I'm a really big fan of that. And you know, the important part is having the guardians. I think that's what you said, right? The guardians.
Yes, sir.
So that's what we're doing. So I just hope you get good buy-in, because I think it's a great plan and a great way for our community.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Let him go last.
Chris, I applaud you guys for taking this on and pushing in that direction. I also appreciate you mentioning that community policing has been around for a long time. It takes different forms and different titles, and there's been successes and failures across the country. And the issues at hand generally are building strong partnerships with the community. Sometimes it's tough to get people involved. I mean, nobody wants crime in their neighborhood, but sometimes attending a meeting and sticking with it is difficult for people. So I noted down partnerships and communications are key in the program. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But I also wrote down how do we measure success? And I don't know if there's a solid answer to that, but I understand getting the buy-in from the officers that are actually going to be out there performing these duties, and that's very good. But I think we need to stick with them as far as measuring success and ask them 6 months down the road, a year down the road, is this working? And if not, what are our challenges? What are we missing? It's still difficult to keep 5 shift officers communicating and focused on the same problem within their district. There'll be some that will jump all over that and be gung-ho and want to make that work on a daily basis. And there may be others that don't really buy into it. So as I said, I applaud you guys for taking it on. I do think this is, the future of policing. I think it's important. I think it's important for our community. So anyway, I just encourage you to stick with it and keep pounding it out. I think it'll work if given the right direction.
Thank you, Councilmember Hoseland. And one of the things that you just mentioned, we have something built into the program, which is quarterly evaluations. So quarterly, we'll look at qualitative and quantitative data in the form of interviews with the officers and surveys, and also with the citizens who will participate to garner that information and determine its success or failures, so we can change the profiles if need be. And this is something that the beat teams will do. The officers will do this. They will be gathering this information. We will too, at a certain level, for a command perspective, and also looking at the crime rate reduction and things like that from the bird's eye view. But they're going to be dealing with that to gather information from their communities to find out, hey, do we need to adjust this beat profile going forward? Do we need to change our focus here? Do we need to reevaluate the DDAX zone in District A? That kind of thing. So that's part of that, to help us deal with those issues you just mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Mary, did you have a comment, additional comment you
No,
want to make?
I'm good. Thank
Okay.
you. I think it's great.
All right, anybody else? All right, seeing none, then I just want to personally thank you guys for this. I think this is a great program. I think it'll be great for our community. Also, while you're all here, I just want to commend your investigators for catching those
Yes.
those guys this past week. So please give them our thanks.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
Good job.
Thank you, guys.
That's right.
Okay, let's stand adjourned for 5 minutes. We'll start the city council meeting at 7:05. Larry, is there anything else on the study session? Okay, so we'll stand adjourned. So tonight, Bob's going to lead us in our invocation, and please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Lisa will take care of us there.
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, we ask for your blessing tonight to bless this council with the wisdom and courage to conduct the business of the city. Help us to make good, positive decisions that benefit everyone in our community. We also ask you to watch over the city's first responders, police, fire, also medical in our community. We're still facing the dangers of the pandemic, and we appreciate your blessing over us to keep us safe as much as possible. Also, please watch over our service members, both locally and overseas. Please especially watch those that are in dangerous areas. We ask all these things of you, Lord, in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Bob. Let the roll call show that all council members are present.
So noted.
Mayor McFarland, regarding the minutes, I move that we approve the approval for the city council regular meeting minutes from November 2nd, and that we accept for the record the judicial selection committee minutes from October 15th and November 9th as presented.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the previously stated minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved as presented. Claims against the city?
Mayor McFarland, I move to accept and pay the claims as presented for October 28th through November 10th, 2020.
Second.
Was there a motion?
Is your microphone on?
Yeah, Matt did.
I made the motion.
Matt did.
Oh, and you second. Okay. So moved and seconded to approve the claims. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
abstain, Mayor.
Okay, one abstention. Okay. Item E is the meeting agenda approval. Larry, any changes from staff? We have none, Mr. Mayor. All right, I have one. I'm going to move the reports, item N, to follow item J on the agenda. Does anyone else have any changes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as amended.
So move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, meeting minute agenda is approved. No special presentations, so we'll move to consent agenda items. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion, one roll call vote of the council. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda item and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Does anybody have anything you want to remove from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, then can I get a roll, actually, you don't need a roll call vote, just a motion.
Need a motion.
Mayor,
Motion. Sorry.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortson.
Yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right. Item I is to consider ordinance number 3242. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Vices Engineering Construction of Mesa, Arizona, with a total bid amount of $1,005,000 plus a contingency of $118,000 for a total amount not to exceed $1,123,000. Peart Road from O'Neill Drive to Cottonwood Lane is currently a 2-lane going northbound and a 1-lane going southbound. What this project will do is it will build it out to the 4-lane capacity with whatever turn lanes are needed per the design. And that'll be from O'Neill South to Cottonwood Lane. This project did have one bid alternate for landscaping, but it only included the section of this construction and left out the section in front of the rec center as part of that project. So we are going to be bringing a separate project forward in the next budget process to manage all of the landscaping as one project and do it at that time. And that part of that process is to build a landscaping master plan for the community. So we'll have that as a tool to use as we move forward with all other median construction. So we're going through that design process now. We did budget for this project in this fiscal year, and it was identified as project 19097. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Kevin, I do have a question. So the median that will be constructed, but the landscaping will be at a later time?
Correct. So it'll look just like what's in front of the rec center now
Okay.
until we pull the trigger on that project sometime after July of next year.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Matt?
I'm really glad to hear about the landscaping and the medians and some sort of standardization. I think we should also look at metal art or some kind of stuff that doesn't require a lot of water. But I'm sure we'll talk about that at the next meeting. One thing that really bothered me, though, is that this construction company out of Mesa was 1.3% higher than the local construction company. And we always talk about shop local, do this, do that, practice, and I'm saying practice what we preach. I mean, with the the contingency in there, I think that we should hire the local contractor because they have people that live here. We know their work. I'm sure this company's fine too, but I mean, what do they give to our community? So that's where I'm at with this because we say it all the time. We put it on our Facebook posts, we put it on our social media, and we talk about it. And this is a chance to put our money where our mouth is. If it was a lot more money, I would definitely see it because we are stewards of the money. But this is an investment in our community as well because more of this money will go back to our community than if we put it out of our community. And it's $1 million. So I know we don't have to go with the lowest bidder, I don't think. And I mean, again, 1.3%, $13,825 is the difference between the local bidder and the lowest bidder. So that's my $13,825.
Kevin, were all the stipulations and all the plans that were submitted, were they all comparable? Meaning local bidder versus Mesa?
They all met the minimum requirements of the bid submittals. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had 12 submittals, and all but one, which was actually the lowest bid, met all those requirements. They failed to provide us with a project schedule, and their comparable projects that they provided for us to review didn't meet that. But all of the other applicants met those requirements for submittals.
Okay. Lisa?
I'm going to piggyback what he said. I mean, if there's a way for us to do it, because I do believe in the past that we've done this before, or we've considered it if there's a close amount. But I agree, Matt. I just, if it's that close, of course, we can't justify paying a lot more, but we know this contractor and has done so much and does so much in this community that if it's that close, I think we do need to practice what we preach. And if there's a possibility we can do it, then I'm all for that too.
Larry, is that possible?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, obviously, the mayor and council have the authority to award this bid as deemed by the mayor and council. From a standpoint of a general practice, and I'll let Mr. Wallace talk specifically about perhaps some of the legal aspects of this, but from a matter of general practice, we typically are encouraging and recommending the lowest, most responsible bidder. So if you've got an individual that has met all the requirements and the low bid, then that is who we are recommending. It becomes a financial decision, really. I certainly understand the mayor and council's perspective. We always, from a staff's perspective, are looking are anticipating and hoping that our local contractors are going to be, number one, competitive, are going to be responsive, and potentially the low bid, and we see that, quite frankly, across the board. In this particular case, that was not the case. As I'm sitting here answering the mayor's question, there is one item that comes to mind that is specific to our local bidder's preference. And again, I would have to pull out that code to specifically ascertain whether or not this would be one of those elements that would qualify in this particular case. I know that there are examples of other retail, typically if it's a retail, and I do know in this particular case that there is a construction sales tax element that will be paid back to the city regardless of which contractor gets it. And so that may still result in the low bid being the lowest, most responsive bidder, and the company that Kevin is recommending tonight still getting that bid, because it's likely that the tax that is being paid will be paid by all contractors, if that makes sense. And so I guess that as I continue to respond, Mr. Mayor, from a practical perspective, from an administrative perspective, I understand the council's desire to shop locally at all possible. And I'll let Mr. Wallace speak specifically to the legal perspective, and I'll contemplate a little bit more the local bidder's preference, the local company's preference. Brett, you want to jump in there?
If I can get the microphone on, I will. Sure. Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, certainly, we always hope to have our low bidder be, one that is local, right? And as Larry said, and many times Ellison Mills is. In this case, I don't think there's any difference in the tax, and what your local preference says is that we can take into account the difference in the tax received by Cassiran. But because it's construction sales tax, we're getting it from either one of them in equal amounts. So you don't actually have your local bidder's preference to probably use in this one, at least based on the numbers that I've seen from the bid. It's always up to mayor and council to determine who the lowest, most responsive bidder is. I think it would be one that could be protested by the lowest bidder, right? Just like if Ellison Mills was trying to get a thing in Tempe and they are turned down because they're not from Tempe. So, and this is also a Title 34 build for us. So, statutorily, we run through our process and we generally deal with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. And in this case, as Mr. Lewis said, we did disqualify one of the bidders for failing to put in the construction schedule. Vices does apparently meet all of those unless Kevin says otherwise. So that's why the recommendation is to the mayor and council for what it is. If there had been a difference in like a retail sales tax difference, we probably would have been able to take that into account based on your local bidder's preference that you've adopted. But right now, based on what you've done, we'd recommend obviously that you do this, but you can do, mayor and council can always do what you want to do.
There are other taxes to consider that are part of the employees and part of the company, being a local company. To Matt and Lisa's point, is that there are when local dollars are given to local people, the dollars turn about 8 times. So if you apply that to that equation, that makes that 13,000 look pretty small when you're talking about $1 million.
I certainly understand that, but on a $20 million project, you could make that same argument to spend 30 or 40 million as well. So certainly, the mayor and council always, as a legislative matter, get to choose what you want to do. From my review of our bidding documents, from my review of your local bidder preference that you've adopted, and the case law that's generally gone along with that, to make sure that people don't just protect their own through the employment thing. That's why staff has made the recommendation that they have, that we go with the lowest responsible bidder. Again, the mayor and council can choose to do what you will. But that's why staff's made our recommendation based on what we think the code requires us to recommend.
And Brett, if I can just build on that for the mayor and council to describe the local bidder's preference, and we did do the evaluation on this as we made the recommendation. The ordinance in essence gives credit to the local companies that are paying the city of Casa Grande a sales tax back. So again, typically it gets applied very regularly on a retail side. Because if we buy something in Casa Grande, we're going to see it either a 1.8 or 2% typically return to and so there is an ability for us to have the credit there. But under this particular case, because the construction sales tax is 65% of the contract and applied at our rate of 4%, all companies are paying that regardless of where they're actually located. And so and Mr. Mayor, you make the argument about the return. You're not going to get any arguments from staff on that. That is 100% correct. We understand that. But to Mr. Wallace's point about a nexus and about case law, when we wrote our local bidder's preference ordinance, we did so considering a number of elements and felt like that was, I guess I would say, the best that we could do that would still pass the legal muster. And as Mr. Wallace has pointed out as well, we have seen in the past that individuals have the right to protest. I mean, that is part of our bid documents, and they will file that if they feel that they have been, if they have been passed by for a reason that is outside of those bid documents. And so I agree with Mr. Wallace that this is a legislative decision. The mayor and council has the authority to make that decision. But our recommendations were based on our current codes and our current policies and procedures that we have in place.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mary.
So if we decided to table this, taking a look at this again so that we can consider that and sort of thing, so what kind of harm would there be in a delay from this?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Courtson, there would not, I was just speaking to Kevin just briefly about this, there is not any harm or what we would consider to be impediment to a table tonight. I guess that what I would ask the council from a staff perspective is the analysis that you would like us to do to come back as we come back to the mayor and council, because it is a project that we want to get done, obviously, but certainly could have time tonight if there is a table, if the decision to table is made. But what I would like is just a bit of guidance as to what you would want us to look at.
Is there some kind of statutory time for them to, is it Vices, to come in and object? So let's say that we went with the local company tonight. Is there a time frame, Mr. Wallace, that we would deal with for them to come back and file a complaint, more or less?
Sure. So our code does provide sort of a appeal process for individuals. They kind of run at different times depending on the process. So when we give you notice that you're not an accepted bidder, that's when your time runs. When it comes to the people that we're anticipating awarding to, and I believe it's 5 days, I'd have to look, is what our code requires. It would probably be from second reading, not from the first reading, simply because you really haven't taken action until you've taken 2 reads. I have not looked at, that's our local preference. They would probably need to go through that process with the city manager's office in order to preserve their rights to go to court. But they can go to court at any point during the statute of limitations, if they so desire.
So,
Ultimately, we would obviously look and say, we're trying to have the mayor and council in their legislative discretion make the decision that they think is in the best interest of the city of Casa Grande, which can include, for example, in this case, the history we have with Ellison Mills. I will say that there are a number of cases, I have not looked at them in a while, that have struck down bid preferences, which is why your bid preference ordinance is limited to kind of that difference in sales tax for retail. City of Tucson used to have one, which is 3%. If you were around in there, and the Supreme Court said that is unconstitutional. So I just want you guys to be aware, obviously, of those things. We can obviously delay it. We can put it on for another meeting and have executive session on that as well, if you need further legal advice.
So that we could kind of resolve this a little quicker, though, at this point in time, let's walk through this a little bit. If we tonight decided to go ahead and take the local bid, and over that, the clock is running, we now have December meeting for the second reading, and now they have a time frame and then at that point in time, we'll know what we're facing, and that'll be a chance for us to reconsider if we need to.
Yes, you could, in theory, after you've passed 2 ordinances and faced any sort of action, repeal your ordinance, which would probably require you to begin the bid process anew.
And just, there's one other impact by delaying this. Obviously, we requested that they submit a construction schedule. And they build that construction schedule and then get their bids that are tied to that construction schedule. So if we were to delay this, it could have an impact on the amount that they bid, and it could probably provide them an opportunity to come back to us to say, prices just went up, I can no longer honor that bid. And it would give them an opportunity to maybe back out of that bid. I just don't know. It is something that we need to take into consideration. And as volatile as the construction industry is today with pricing, you just never know how it's going to impact. what
Kevin,
they bid.
Vices versus Ellison Mills, do you have a preference one way or the other? I mean, you guys deal with these companies. Is Ellison Mills a good company that you like working with?
Obviously, we've hired Allison Mills on a number of occasions. They're on our on-call list. They've been successful with a lot of our solicitations. We have not used this company that I'm recommending tonight, but we also have no reason not to believe that they're going to perform at a level that meets our expectations. We've done our evaluation, we've checked their references, we've looked at the projects that they've done, so we have no reason to challenge their ability to provide those services. So it kind of puts me in an unfair position, because the last thing, I mean, of course, we'd love to give all projects to local bidders, but we did do a design, bid, build process on this, so we are where we're at.
I didn't mean to put you in a pinch there, sorry.
A good response, Kevin. Thank you.
That was.
You could be a politician. Matt?
Yeah, and I don't know anything about Vices. I'm sure, like you said, they're registered contractors, so they're fine. But maybe, I'm sorry, Brett, I should have called you last week and told you about this, but I would kind of like to hear more, because I think it would be an exercise in futility to vote one way or the other tonight, and then we could probably do an emergency. I mean, is that possible on this if we go to the next meeting?
I think it'd be pretty difficult to call it an emergency after you've tabled it. Right, because you had the opportunity to take action.
Kevin-
And it's really not an emergency because of those things, but
And Kevin, when are their bids
It
good
would only cost
till?
you 3
They have a
weeks.
date, they usually have a date on them, don't they?
And I don't have that document in front of me, so, I'm sure it's fine. And obviously, if we don't move forward with the decision tonight, we'll be going through that evaluation, having that conversation with them, making sure there are no issues, so that when we come with our further analysis, if that's what you choose to give us direction to do, we'll come back and be able to explain that.
And Mr. Mayor, and if I can address the question that Mr. Herman asked, if you're asking staff for a recommendation on what our preference would be, we would prefer, if there is any question, that it be tabled tonight and let us do the analysis and bring it back on December 7th versus starting down the path with one contractor and then ultimately trying to make a pivot after we find out what's transpiring.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I would like to get a legal opinion before anything, because the $13,000 could get eaten up really quickly
Yeah.
with a protest or something else. So, and as long as we know, give it a shot. I get it, and I understand where you guys are coming from to avoid problems, which is most things that we do in the city, right? Because we want to avoid problems.
From a staff's perspective, we certainly appreciate the interest on the part of the mayor and council, and I want the council to know that staff shares much of the same philosophy, that, again, that any project that we can award to our local companies and vendors, we take pride in doing that. But we can't control what their bids are going to be before the packets are open.
And we shouldn't. It's against the
I
law
know,
to do that.
No, but when it is so close, I mean, if there was a
Yeah.
bigger gap there, that's different, but.
Yeah, that's, so.
So I move to table this ordinance
Second,
to get further advice from our attorney. and send it
Okay,
back.
it's been moved and seconded, Gloria, to table this ordinance. Gloria, can I get a roll call vote on that, please?
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Councilmember Courtson.
yes.
Councilmember Powell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzgibbons.
Yes,
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. Okay, so, Larry, then, is it clear in terms of what we're looking for? I'm not sure that I'm clear on what we told you to look for.
Well, we will look at it from a legal perspective, Mayor, and we'll
Okay.
evaluate it against our local professionals, just to ensure, but
Okay.
That sounds.
Is there any other way, any other tax or ramification on a local business and what they spend versus an out-of-city business and what they spend? I mean, like, they buy their paper for their office at Office Max here in town. I mean, there's that sales tax that's spent on a local company. I guarantee the Mesa company's not coming down here to buy their paper and their ink and all their products, for their offices.
Mr. Mayor, before we begin to discuss this, it's not an item on the agenda.
Okay.
My preference would be that we ultimately provide the mayor and council with a bit of an overview that I can send out electronically along with the local bidders preference ordinance.
Okay. I'm not trying to be difficult.
Yes, it's okay.
Just trying to find a way. All right. Well, thanks, Matt, for that.
You're welcome. Merry Christmas.
Made my
Okay.
second to last meeting exciting.
All right, the next item on the agenda is item J, which is boards and commissions. We do have two recommended reappointments. These are both gentlemen who have been on the Planning and Zoning Board for the past 3 years, and they are up for reappointment. They both have reapplied. Mr. David Snyder and Mr. Dennis Dugan. Can we do both, or do one at a time?
Approval of both candidates.
Okay.
Second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Well, we thank both gentlemen for their service for the past 3 years and now their incarceration for the next 3 years. All right, we moved to item N. So item N is next, which is reports, before we move into the executive session. So we'll start over with you this time, Bob.
Oh, thank you. Just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We've had a lot of challenges this year, but even more things to be thankful for, so I wish everybody. Huh?
Guajolotes, turkeys.
Also, I want to go on record and congratulate my stepson. He was sworn in this last week as the new mayor in Eloy. And as a consequence, I spent more time in Eloy this week than I have in the last 10 years, so. But that's all I had,
Yes,
Mayor.
that's cute.
Great. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Donna?
Just one thing is that, I know that we've been receiving a lot of notices on what the Community Services Department is doing for the holidays. And they have really just hit it out of the ballpark on all the different activities. And I know a lot of people have contacted me and they're so disappointed in the parade and everything. But, I mean, I gotta say, our Community Services Division has just done such a great job at trying to encompass all the families and the activities and stuff. So just a reminder, on the 5th is the community cruise. And my plug is come by the corner of Pennell and McMurray, where my office will be having a big display. Vote for us, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Donna. Matt?
are you handing out candy canes?
So, we had the youth commission meeting this last week, socially distanced and electronically. thanks to the clerk's department for helping us with sanitization and temperatures. And so we came to kind of as a neat thing with the kids, because, you know, a couple of them are in middle schools, their schools got closed today, and the high schoolers are having a rough time, and we just kind of all came to the conclusion, we're gonna do what we can this year, try to make it a good, safe space for them, and so they can have a little fun. And so they're building their Christmas display at Lowe's, where Lowe's is sponsoring some of them for the drive-by on the 5th. So that'll be exciting. And they all came to, you know, they're trying to plan all these events, and we said, you know, let's just try to figure out how we can do them without having people together, because it's probably not gonna work right now. And they were okay with that, so I just feel for all the kids in the community right now, because they're just having a rough time, and all the parents are, you know, everybody, it's just a rough time, so just try to make the best of it that we can. And the kids were really agreeable with that, so that was good. And the holidays are coming, so happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and it's gonna be a great holiday no matter what else is going on, because we live in Casa Grande, Arizona, so it's gonna be good. And speaking of the mayor of Eloy, this is not the same thing, Brett. He and I made a good-natured bet when Eloy and Casa Grande played football, that we'd have to wear the jerseys, and we kind of decided to wait until after he got sworn in. So he didn't have to do it at his first meeting as mayor, right? So next week, he's gonna put on the Cougar shirt and take
Are they
pictures.
televised? Is it
I don't know if
televised?
they're televised.
Do they
but-
televise your meetings? I gotta watch that.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be a good time, and it was fun, because actually Micah went to Casa Grande Union with me too. But
Yeah.
he's a
kids there.
yeah, and he has kids there, but he's a Dust Devil now. He has Port Eloy, so it was fun. So we'll see how that goes next week.
All right, thank you, Matt. Mary?
Okay, so first and foremost, I need to congratulate the Casa Grande Cougars for going to the playoffs, and I believe it's Friday that they play.
There's one pretty good player there.
There was one player, I think it was my grandson, who made the first touchdown. And so I am very proud of them. They are being very cautious. I like watching as far as with the COVID. I'm proud of Casa Grande. I know there's a lot of pushback and that sort of thing, but at Casa Grande, I see, people realize that they are helping other people in that, so I do appreciate that. I also wanted to go on as far as community services, so I started looking at all of the different things that are going on, and I'm trying to figure out how to post each one on Facebook, to my crowd and get those. And there's so many activities, and it just amazes me how we're doing that. And we really need to spread the word so people know, because that's the only way we can do it. And so that's really great. And then on the 3rd, we have the tree lighting, right? Is it? Yeah, December 3rd. It's going to be virtual. But we're all getting used to it. And you know what? Here's the thing, is now we can all say, oh, we're really good at this. We can be proud of ourselves and everything else. We've got our phones and that. So let's take a little pride on that. But, and I wish a happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you, Mary. Mr. Powell?
Well, I wish everybody a happy rodeo in February.
Oh, yes.
I was happy today I called Steve up to see about the books that I wanted to donate somewhere, and he was happy to have them. And I didn't realize, but there's very few seniors in the senior center, I guess because of the COVID situation.
Right.
And so hopefully those books will be something maybe they can take home and read or whatever. There's 47 of them that are pretty good ones. And I know just to tag on, I'm very proud of the Casa Grande Cougars. And I know a lot of us have been very closely connected, but they've got a powerhouse team this year, and it really brings some pride to our community, doesn't it, Mary?
Yeah, a good group of boys, good group of boys, and the spirit line and the band, and it's nice that they've all stayed distance, but it's nice that they've all been able to participate.
One other thing I wanted to mention that has alarmed me is on Florence Boulevard, people with bicycles are there's not a special lane for them.
Yep.
And if the sidewalks aren't there in a lot of places, and I mean, they're just right beside you. It's pretty scary.
Okay.
I don't know what there's any kind of an answer to it, or to have it come some other way, but, it is, as I say, I've seen more of it, and they'll get out in that turn lane and try to go back and forth on it, and then some car comes in. There's been some pretty close ones, and, I mean, I could have shook hands with the guy the other day that was just right there at the edge.
It is scary.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Powell. Lisa?
You know, I know there's so much going on, and we're learning to live with this, you know, with the virus and like you said, Mary, kind of changing the way we're doing business and having meetings, but there are some great things going on, and people are finding ways to still provide services. And you know, I'm on the Faith Alliance, which used to be the EAM, and some of the activities the churches are doing, and we're still continuing to try to find an overnight shelter program. We got a little delayed with COVID, but it's something that they're still working on, doing some, you know, with the churches. And then the Homeless Coalition is still meeting and very active, and there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of need. You know, Cara is stretched thin, and, you know, of course, they're short-staffed, and, you know, they're trying to help as many people as they can, but there's a lot of need and a lot going on. And so I just wanted to let everyone know that if you want to make donations, you know, they're looking for blankets for the homeless and sweatshirts, and you can take them to the actual resource center and drop them off. And I did want to thank the police department, and Larry, if you can kind of send that information, but, you know, Sergeant Ingstrom and Wendy, you know, they've been just so good working with the businesses downtown, and working with at the resource center, and Cara, just to help with, you know, what's going on, you know, and with the homeless population. They, you know, they're truly appreciative of the police department and their role in just combating this, you know, what's going on. So, you know, they're still providing showers down there, on Saturdays at the Fountain of Living Waters Church. So that is still going on, and the rest stop is, you know, says it's going really well, and there's no complaints, and, you know, there's regulars that come and take showers. So it's something, you know, that we don't think about, but, you know, for someone to have a shower once a week is a big deal. So, and then there's the Homeless Coalition also has the Laundry Love that's going, you know, twice a month. They're doing the laundry vouchers. So that's still happening. People can pick those up at the Resource Center. Thanksgiving, the Seeds of Hope is going to have their Thanksgiving meal again at the Elks on Thanksgiving. I think it's 11 o'clock till, I'm not sure the time, 11 to 2. So that's still going on. So, you know, there's still a lot of things happening in the community, and people are finding ways to still continue to serve and help people in need. So I just wanted to thank everyone that's still continuing to do whatever they can to continue with these meetings and providing these services.
Lisa, are they going to take away the food, or are they going to be serving it?
It's going to take away.
Oh, good.
Yes, take away food.
The Rotary's doing takeaway this Saturday at Eva's again.
Oh, Eva's, it's this
From 9
weekend?
to 12, yeah.
So, yeah.
Sorry.
And then as far as Thanksgiving, you know, with COVID, you know, we all just can't let our guard down. We have to remember that it's still there, and it's having a business, and I see the effect of the schools being closed on our employees, and it's tough, it's challenging. And I know you mentioned, you know, what these young people are going through, and I, you know, feel so bad for the students, I feel for the teachers and the parents, and, you know, we as businesses and business owners need to just be supportive, and whatever we can do to still move our business forward, but help those employees, and, you know, during these times, and having them, you know, determine what they're going to do with their kids at home. So it's challenging times for everyone, and but I know a lot of the nonprofits are working together to try to help with services and tutoring and childcare and all the different things that we saw come through the program. But you know, again, we just have to be patient and remember what people are going through, and try to lend a helping hand, and especially as businesses. That's it for me, Mayor.
Thank you, Lisa. Just to give everybody a few numbers, since this is my life, is I've been tracking numbers for 229 days now. That's when we first were notified that the state was going to shut down. 229 days. So if you're tired of this, I know why. It's been a long grind, and I know it's been tough on everybody, all their families, and certainly all of our businesses. We'll continue. I know we can continue. Just to give you an idea, there have been 17,213 new cases in the state of Arizona in the last 7 days. That's 7 days. So in the county, it's 863, and in 85122, it's 134 in the last week. So those numbers aren't good. They're not going in the right direction. So need to make sure that everybody is being smart, right? So follow the SMART rule, which is make sure you cover up, make sure you stay apart 6 feet, make sure you mask up, make sure you wash your hands on a regular basis, 20 seconds, wash and rinse, and then make sure you sanitize. Use sanitizer wherever you can. So let's try and be smart, and hopefully we can get this thing turned around. I thought we had it turned around, and then the fall came. So it's been since like November 1st, really, that we've seen this spike. Pardon me?
I'm not supposed to discuss that, I'm sorry.
Mask up. On a little more positive note, we did just close the PPE reimbursements for the CARES money, and it looks like we have reimbursed about almost $22,000 in PPE, which is personal protection equipment, back to, it looks like probably 20 or 15 to 20 different businesses. Larry and I had a conversation today, and we'll have additional conversations with council on whether we want to reopen some of this again, because there are a lot of businesses that did not take advantage of some of the monies that we had available. We think it's just how it was communicated. Some people are not electronically oriented, so we may go the old school way and just make some handout flyers and walk around to all the businesses and hand it out. So, because I really think there's still a need out there, and I think the council agrees with that. So we'll be looking at that just to let the community know. And then we did have an opportunity to talk to the elementary school last week, and they are going to be shutting down the elementary school system, probably, effective the 23rd of November. And so they're going to open 6 learning centers around the city. 3 will be operated by the Boys and Girls Club, and 3 will be operated by the Casa Grande Alliance. So they'll be at strategic locations around the city. When that information is available, we will have it on our website. I know you'll be able to find it on the elementary school's websites for those whose parents work and they need a place to go, and it'll also have access to internet and wireless connectivity to the online learning. So they're going to go back to all total online learning, probably until January. And I know that's not a popular thing. My daughter chewed me out the other night because she's going to now have her 2 children back at home. Yeah. So I got an earful. And I said, but I'm not on the board. I didn't make the decision. Anyway, I know it's tough on everybody, but please look for those locations. There will be opportunities to drop your young people off in a safe and secure location. So, and the city is going to help fund those locations. So that's some of the CARES Act money that we are going to use to help fund those locations. So as we get more information, we'll make sure that it's out there and available. Kind of anticlimactic, but last week we were recognized with the Community Rec Center as one of the best design, build facilities that were publicly owned, that are city-owned or government-owned. And so we actually won the award for the best in class for the Southwest region, and we're up for the national honor as well. So hopefully we'll find out whether that comes to pass or not. I want to remind everybody too, this Wednesday is the Mayor's Roundtable on the path to the trades. And what that is, we're going to have, it's about 115 people we have signed up now. It'll be a virtual meeting, but there'll be presentations from CAC, from the high school district, and also from the Brewer Plumbing Academy. Plus myself, I'll give an update on the state of the city, kind of a mini state of the city, but also of mission, vision, on where this came from and what we're trying to accomplish. But the end goal is to work with the high schools, the CAC, the academies, and work our young people into these trades. So they might start as a sophomore, a junior, senior. By the time they're a senior, the CTE class might include an apprenticeship with a plumbing company, or apprenticeship with an electrician's company. And they would do that apprenticeship half day, get school credit for it, get paid, and then also build themselves a job. So we graduate about 800 young people a year from the two primary high schools, and there's probably 200 to 300 of them that don't go on to college. So I think that is a missed opportunity, that I think we can help our young people find a career. And I think that this is an opportunity to work with our contractors and our developers. They're going to be part of this conversation, and in the end, I'm going to be looking for a collaborative effort and a commitment on their part to hire these young people once we get them trained and once they've had a chance to do their apprenticeship. So I think it's a great way to fill the pipeline for our trades. We're going to just start with electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, because to tackle all the trades might be a little bit of a mouthful. So we're going to do a little bit at a time. The CTE classes will be set up through the high school. We're also going to use CAC and also something like a Brewer Academy. So we're going to kind of use their model. It seems to work pretty good. Plus then the young people have a certificate when they get done. So got a lot on our plate. Lucid did let us know that they're actually now not going to start their second phase until probably first quarter this next year. So just to give everybody an update on that, they've pushed it back. They've moved it up and then they put it back where it was. So, but the second phase should begin sometime after January, February this next year. Let's see, what else have I got? That's probably enough. The first, I do want to remind everybody the general plan is a public plan, and the first public hearing actually is going to be, what's the date on it, Larry? November 19? So November 19th is the first public hearing at the Planning Commission. And is that at 7 o'clock? It doesn't have the time on here, so I don't know. But you can find it probably on our website. 6 o'clock? Okay. And then the next public hearing is going to be the Planning and Zoning's meeting on the 3rd of December, which will be their regular meeting. So those are the first two public hearings on the general plan. And then the council will hear it 2 times in December. Actually, 1 time in December, and then the final vote will be on January 4th, where we send it to the public for a vote. So that's the process. Okay, that's all. Oh, one other thing, sorry. ADOT, I-10 widening. If you're watching, write this down, because I need you to send a note to ADOT. And it is I-10, and no dash in there, so it's I-10 Wild Horse Pass Corridor.com. So I want everybody to send a note and tell them to widen I-10 between Casa Grande and the Loop 202.
Say that again?
The
I-10.
I-10 Wild Horse Pass Corridor.com.
Oh, corridor.
If you want to watch the hearing live, it's on November 18th at 4:30. No, not at 4:30, it's at 5:30, sorry. Okay, so that's your assignment.
Got it.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. Anybody else have anything else you want to comment on before I ask for a motion to?
I did have one.
Go ahead.
The police department, Public Safety Foundation usually has their benefit dinner in December to raise money for their Blue Santa program where they adopt families, but they had to go all virtual. So if you want to look it up, the Blue Santa program, what happened? Well, I had it here.
And happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans for last week. It was
Yes.
the 11th, so.
So the Blue Santa program, just call the police department because my computer messed up. But they really need help because they're not having their big fundraiser and they're still adopting families and they're going to deliver everything to them.
So they're gonna be doing a virtual, kind of like Boys and
Yes.
Girls Club did?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I do have one more reminder. It's on the COVID testing. You can go to Lynn Cola Center. I actually experienced it this last Saturday, and I had my results by Sunday, and I was negative. So there you go. But it was pretty painless. It was a simple process. Just
Pretty.
The hours are odd because it's Thursdays from 8 to 1, Fridays from 1 to 6, and Saturdays from 10 to 3.
No consistent time.
Yeah. So
Do you have to make
try-
an appointment?
They recommend you have an appointment. You can go to the county's website and make an appointment.
Okay.
Because the county is graciously paying for this, so there is no cost. I even tried to give them my insurance card and they wouldn't take it. So, it's totally covered by the county. And until the foreseeable future, is what I'm told. So, it's at the Lynn Cola Center. Okay, anybody else?
One more question. Have
Yeah.
you made any decision on the underpass?
It's moving forward, is it not? Yeah,
Okay.
Final approval.
okay. You'll get to see it for
Okay.
final approval. Anybody want to make a motion to move to executive session?
So move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go to executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? Okay, we stand adjourned for a couple minutes to clear the room.
Poor Kevin sat there.